Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing a weaving demo with you. I have a little mini loom kit here from Hello Loom, and I'll show you also how to make a simple loom at home using recycled materials. And you can check out some really good inspiration on their website, helloloom.com. And the kit comes with 6 colors, comes with this little comb to push down your weft, which is the yarn that goes across. And I'll link an activity sheet that includes instructions on setting up your warp, and that's the threads that are going up and down. And right now I'm just going to start by doing an over-under pattern. I've already added some yarn, and every time I go through I want to push down my weft so that it's nice and tight. And the harder you push it down, the tighter the fabric will be once we take it off the loom. You want to keep going over, under, over, under. When you switch sides and get to the end, you're going to do the opposite. So if I started going over on the way back, I'm going to go the opposite. If you do happen to go the wrong way, you'll see what happens and the yarn will just pop out. And again, I'll include some diagrams on this in an activity sheet. So now I want to switch my color. I left a little tail on the pink, and I'm going to go ahead and thread my green. You don't need to use a needle, you can do it with your hands, but a needle does help. And you can get plastic ones from craft stores. And again, I'm going to go opposite to the last row. And I almost pulled my yarn all the way through. I always want to make sure I leave a little tail on that first row so that I can tie it off. And I like to leave little strands on the end so that I can add beads or different embellishments at the end. I think this kit comes with 6 colors. You don't have to use every color, and you can do any pattern you like. If you don't have the comb, you can always just push down with your fingers. And now I stopped 3 before the end because I'm going to make a little slope here. So instead of just making stripes, I want to have a little mound. So I'm going to keep going back and forth, and I'm going to go through 1 less string each time. And what I'm doing here is just called free weaving, so I'm just kind of going with the flow. I don't really have any plan. I picked my colors, and now I'm just going back and forth as I like and creating shapes. So now I went 1 less string in to create this little hill. And then later I can fill in that other side with another color. It makes it a little more interesting rather than just having stripes. But it can be a little tricky, so it definitely takes some experimenting. And now here I could do a stack. I could keep going up the 4 strings back and forth, but I think I'm going to switch to another color. I'm looking for the end here. If you don't have yarn at home, you can use old fabric, cut into strips. You could use plastic bags, any recycled materials you can find, cut into thin strips. Later I'll show you how to use natural materials that I found in the woods. So I'm going to start on the end and I'm going to fill in that gap. Weaving can get pretty messy with all these strings hanging out. They tend to get tangled. It helps if you keep the tails nice and short. So I'm just kind of following the line of the dark green, seeing where I need to fill in this big chunk. And here I'm just using an over-under pattern, over 1, under 1, but you could go over 2, under 2. You can play around and experiment with it. If I had a colorful warp, which is the strings that are going up and down, and I wanted to see that, I might do over 2, under 2, so I can see more of it. And now I went all the way across, and I've got this cool little shape there. And I think I have a little bit of dark green left, so I think I'm gonna take that back. And I twist the end of the yarn to help it go through the little hole in the needle. And I wanna go behind the peach. And then again, over, under, over, under. And I'm gonna go all the way across to make a full row. I'm gonna pull that peach tight so I can hide the green behind it. There's really no rules in weaving. It can be messy, it can be neat. It's whatever you like. I didn't have my scissors nearby, so I'm using this X-Acto knife, but it's definitely a better idea to use a scissor. So you could keep going as long as you want. I'm gonna now show you how to make a cardboard loom. If you don't have a loom at home, I just took an old piece of cardboard from a box and some twine I found, and I cut some slits in the top. So you want to make sure there's the same amount of slits in the top as the bottom. So I did 9 and 9. And you set it up the same way as the other one. And here's some branches and twigs and flowers that I found in the woods. And I'm going to do a little natural weaving. So first I'm going to prep some of my stuff and trim some things. I need to get my scissors for this. These are really fun to make. So I'm going to see how long I want it across. This is a little different than yarn because we do one piece at a time instead of one long piece of yarn. And you're going to go, for this I'm just going to go in and out because they're thick and I want them to be sturdy. And it might take some maneuvering with all the leaves. You don't want them to break off, so you have to be a little more careful. I'm going to get that out of the way. And then I'm just using my fingers for this one to push it down. You can see I left the warp a little bit loose because I have some thick materials that I want to fit in there. If I made it super tight, my things would break, so I gave it a little room to breathe. I'm going to push that down to the bottom. I'm going to do another one from that same branch. take your time with this if you're using natural stuff because we don't want them to break. And I usually use the end that I snipped to go in and out with, just because it's sturdier. You don't want to use the fluffy end. You'll have a hard time getting it underneath the threads. I'm thinking maybe that'll go on the top. I really love these. They're fluffy, and I think they'll look really pretty underneath the twine. I could have used the whole thing, but I don't want it so thick right away, so I'm going to break one off. And it takes some maneuvering here. As you can see, it's a little trickier. I love that. I think that's really pretty. Now one end is really thick and the other side is kind of lacking, so I'm going to put another one in to even it out going through the other side. And you see I'm using the stem side, not the fuzzy broom-like side, to use as my kind of like a needle. And I've got a little sapling branch. And now the more I put in, the tighter the warp is going to be, because all of my branches and plant material are taking up all of that space. So you can see it's getting a little trickier to get the branches through. And I want some of the leaves poking out, so I'm going to just carefully pull them out from behind the string. Like that. I really like that. And the branch kind of helps push down the other fuzzy materials. Part-time lover and a full-time friend. The monkey on your back is the latest trend. We've got some little flowers that were growing in my parents' yard that I found. They're really delicate, so these I have to be careful with. From side to side, I don't see what anyone could see in anyone else. But here is the church and here is the steeple. We sure are cute for two ugly people. I don't see what anyone could see in anyone else. And those almost broke. I need to be really careful. Forgive me, the trees forgive me, so why can't you forgive me? I don't see what anyone could see in anyone else but you. And this is an old ostrich fern. I'm going to see if I can get this through without the little brown parts breaking off. I'm going to use the stem side again. This one's kind of easy to get through. Up, down, down, left, right, B, A, start. Just because we use cheats doesn't mean we're not. And now smart. I got some pine needles. I could break this in half if I didn't want it so thick. I'm going to try it as is and see how it looks. But you are always trying to keep it real. I'm in love with. And you could use all one material. I could have done all pine needles, all flowers. I could have done grasses. We both have shiny, happy fits of rage. You want more fans, pretty. I want more stage. I don't see what anyone could see in anyone else but you. Don Quixote was a steel driving man. My name is Adam, I'm your biggest fan. I don't see what anyone could see in anyone else. And you can kind of grab the materials and lay them over your warp if you're not sure where you want them. Maybe I'll bundle these flowers together and put them all in one. It's really up to you. I've got a fern here. I might use that. So you can look around, see if you can find some natural materials. It's a really fun way to do a weaving if you don't have any yarn on hand. And that's it for now. Have fun and let me know if you have any questions on setting up your loom or what you can use.